الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the fiqh, and we stopped at the chapter of al-wudu, the chapter of al-wudu from the book Risala fi al-Fiqh al-Muyassar, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the fiqh fi al-din, man yuridillahu bihi khayran yufaqihu fi al-din. Whoever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for, He will make him comprehend and understand the religion. In Majalis al-Fiqh, as more than one of the early generations of Islam said, here Majalis al-Anbiya, it's the Majalis, is the gatherings of the prophets. So seeking rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept. So after what's mentioned about Sunan al-Fitra, and before that with some of the rulings of the Tahara, with the rulings of the water and relieving oneself, we didn't talk about the najasat yet, the impurities. This will be mentioned later. But then he mentioned here this topic of al-wudu. And we talked last time about fadl al-wudu. This is where we stopped. We finished fadl al-wudu. And then the next point is shurut al-wudu. So we stopped by shurut al-wudu. And the virtues of wudu are so many hadith, and the matter or the subject of al-fiqh in understanding the masail of the fiqh, of how to perform these acts of worship. And since inshallah ta'ala we're planning to finish the entire book, so we need to go also to the chapters of the transactions, and that requires being aware of these masail and understanding it in the proper way. So that's why we're not spending too much time of many different evidences, just to go through the masail and to comprehend it and to understand what it means, and to go by whatever the opinion is there till the next stage, inshallah. So shurut al-wudu. Shurut al-wudu meaning the conditions of the wudu. There are 10 conditions, and we should memorize them like that as they are mentioned. And these are conditions, and the conditions meaning that it has to be met, otherwise the salah is not valid. And that's what the shurut of anything. So the shurut here of the wudu, if the conditions are not met, the wudu is not valid. So wudu is ibadah. So these conditions has to be done. Usually the shart as a condition is not part of the act itself. So the shart is not part of the act, as we would see. So the shurut, doesn't talk about how to make wudu. These are the conditions that have to be fulfilled for the person to make wudu. And there are 10 of them. And one of the shurut of the salah is wudu. So wudu is not part of the salah, but it's a condition for the salah. So here, and without going into the different categories of shurut sihha and shurut wujub, whether it's for the conditions of what makes it obligatory upon a person to make wudu versus the conditions what validates the wudu, makes the wudu valid. So here, these are conditions for the wudu to be valid from the person. He says al-Islam. The first shart is al-Islam. The person has to be a Muslim before he can have or make wudu, for the wudu to be accepted. And that's a condition for any action to be valid. Al-Islam comes first. The second one, al-aql. Al-aql, which is reason, someone that is sane. If someone is insane, his ibadah is not accepted, and there's no accountability for the person. Al-aql huwa manatu taklif, is the condition for every action. You have to have sanity, otherwise a person is not responsible for their actions. Al-aql. The third one, at-tamyiz. And at-tamyiz is, as they say in the English translation, the person must be old enough that he is able to discern matters. At-tamyiz, when a person is able to make tamyiz, to differentiate between things. A child, he's not able to differentiate between what's important and what's less important, or what's good or evil. So that's why they need their parents to direct them and to guide them. And there is an age, usually 7 years old, but it's not specific as 7 years old. It depends on the child. So it's different from one child to the other. That age, when a child is able to differentiate between things, if you tell him that this is an obligation, he will understand that he has to do it. And then he would do it. Doesn't mean that he would do it all the time, but he understands what it means. He understands when he stands in the salah, he does not run away or run around and things like this. So this is usually the 7 years old because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So at-tamyiz here is shart as a condition for the wudu, for the wudu to be valid for the person. And even though it's not a mandatory thing, it's not mandatory upon a child to make wudu because it's not mandatory for him to make salah. So that's why it's shart or the condition for the wudu to be valid. The wudu is valid if a child is in the sin in the age of a tamiz, and he gets reward and his parents get rewards and things like this. So a tamiz, which is also a condition for the salah, as it will come inshallah ta'ala. The fourth condition, an-niyyah. So if you're memorizing, you can just get the one word for each one. Doesn't have to be the entire sentence. So an-niyyah, the intentions that a person is making wudu, because wudu is specific actions in a specific way, and it has to have intentions. So it's not about cleaning oneself. A person finds himself clean so that he makes salah. Different than the najasa. When you remove the najasa, do you have to have intentions? No. As long as you remove it, meaning the intentions, I'm removing the najasa so that I'm able to make salah. You don't have to have that intention, because the command is to remove the najasa. Al-wudu is a specific way. The aql or the reason does not have a place in it, because it's not according to our desire or our reason. It's a specific action by the wahy from Allah. So that means it requires the niyyah. Requires a niyyah. The same thing. It's very clear in ghusl, for example. Wudu, nobody would make wudu without intentions. It does not exist. Right? Because it doesn't happen like this by default. A person find himself making wudu. But for ghusl, yes. A person might take a shower because it's hot, because he used to take a shower every day. And al-ghusl, which is like as if a person is taking a shower, immersing one's body in water, which is one of the ways to elevate oneself from al-hadath to be able to make salah. It requires intentions. If a person take a shower because it's normally he takes a shower, he did not have the intention of ghusl, the shower is not valid for him to make salah because there was no intentions. So, but here for the wudu, an-niyyah. An-niyyah is a condition for the wudu. But then he says here, وَاسْتِصْحَابُ حُكْمِهَا بِأَلَّا يَنْوِي قَطْعَهَا حَتَّى تَتِمَّ الطَّهَارَةُ. Istishab, these are words that we also learn in fiqh. Istishab from ashab, from sohbah, companionship. But what it means here is istishab, that you carry with you, as if it's like your companion, you carry with you the intentions, the ruling of it, meaning that you don't terminate the intention, that you don't have any intention to sever it or to stop it till you till you complete the tahar. That means if you're making wudu, what is the significance of this? You're making wudu. And the intention, of course, you don't have to stop or anything. You know that you're making wudu. So you wash your hands, your mouth, your nose, your face, and then you decided that, you remembered something. So you stop the wudu in your intention and you're going to do something else. Right? So when you come back, here you stop the wudu completely, or you just stop to do something. This is the intentions. The intentions is, I'm done with this at this moment. I'm going to do wudu later. So you do something else, you come back, can you complete, even if it's a short period of time? No, you have to start over again because of your intention. The same action can be done and you can continue if you did not have in your intention that you're quitting the wudu. That if you're making wudu and the phone rings, for example, so you answer the phone, let me call you after a few minutes. You stop the wudu, right, and you hang up and then you continue the wudu. That's fine as long as the mu'ala, the continuity of the wudu is there. Just a short while, you did not stop the wudu, that's fine, you can continue. But here, istishabu hukmiha. You carry the hukm, the ruling of with the intention that you're making wudu. That means you don't have intentions to stop it till you complete the tahara. Clear? So this is number 4. Number 5, so this is the mas'ala, right? So the intentions is always, as a condition for the ibadah, you have to have the intention till the end of the ibadah. Because if you're making salah, we have to make the tasawwur, the understanding of this mas'ala very well. If you are making salah, you're making salatul asr. But then in the middle of the salah, the iqamah, you see the people making iqamah for salatul asr. You thought that they prayed salatul asr. But so you start praying. But then you realize that they didn't pray yet and they're going to pray the fard. Your intention here is that you change your intention from asr to nafl. Right? So then it's not asr anymore. It's something else. But here, if you stop it, that means you are in the salah and you decided that you're going to leave the salah because to save your child from falling, went onto the balcony, for example, high, you want to go to him to catch him before he hurt himself, right? So your intention is you stop the salah. It's not something that you have to make a decision, or it just comes like that. You stop the salah, but then once you start taking one step, he's back again. So can you continue? No, because in your intention you stop the salah. If you didn't stop the salah, but you took a step to get him or so, then you continue your salah. So the niyyah here, that you have to have the niyyah till you finish the ibadah. So this is what niyyah ustasahab hukmih, and this is always with matters of ibadah, you have to have always the intentions for it. Number 5, inqita' mujib. Inqita' means al-qat', severing. Mujib comes from wajib, mandatory. Al-mujib here is what mujib al-wudu, which is basically someone is relieving himself. Can he make wudu while he is urinating, for example? No, because urinating breaks the wudu. Or if a person, the other things lighter than that breaks the wudu. While a person is making wudu, he broke his wudu. He did something to break the wudu. Right? So can he continue? So he has to start over again. So you cannot make the wudu or start the wudu unless what breaks the wudu is finished, is terminated. That's inqita' mujib. Mujib what? Mujib lil wudu. Something that would necessitate for the person to make wudu. That's number 5. Number 6, al-istinja' or al-istijmar. To make istinja' or istijmar, and we talked about them before. And what's the difference between istinja' or istijmar? Al-istinja' is cleaning oneself with water or anything else. Istinja' is much more broader than al-istinja', than al-istijmar. But since both are mentioned, yes. So al-istinja' is with water. Al-istijmar with rock, paper, and so on. But if istinja' is mentioned alone, it means also al-istijmar. So he mentioned here al-istinja' or al-istijmar as a condition for the wudu. So if a person relieved himself and he didn't clean himself yet, and he made wudu, the wudu is not valid because he did not make istinja', did not make istijmar. Clear? Number 7, أن يكون الماء طاهرا. أن يكون الماء طاهرا. The water has to be clean, pure. This tahir is not necessarily like the second category of the 3 categories of water. This is refers to the linguistics of the water. That means the water has to be pure, not having any impurities in it. So it's not impure water. So the water, why this is a condition? Because this is not talking about the wudu itself. So it's talking about the water that you use to make wudu. And yakun, number 8, and yakuna mubahan. This water that you're going to make wudu with has to be permissible, has to be mubahan. That means it's not haram. How can the water be haram? Stolen one. Somebody stole one for someone, for example. So this makes it haram, for example. So أن يكون مباح. Number 9. So if someone is making wudu from a stolen building, it's not valid. Someone took over a building by force, and there's a faucet of water there, and you're making wudu. It's not valid. Of course, if you know that. No. So أن يكون مباحا, that means number 8. Number 9, إزالة ما يمنع وصول الماء إلى البشرة. إزالة, removing, ما يمنع, what prevents, وصول الماء, the reaching of the water to البشرة, to the skin. Right? So anything that prevents the water from reaching the skin, you have to remove this. Chemical, nail polish, if women have a nail polish on, for example, so she has to remove the nail polish before she can make wudu. Anything that prevents the water from reaching the skin or what needs to be washed. So some of the things that people put in their hair, for example, does it prevent the water from reaching or it doesn't? It depends on what is being put. If it's oil, for example, it does not prevent. But if it's a layer on top of the hair that prevents the water from reaching the hair, then they have to remove that first as a condition for the wudu to be valid, or anything on the skin. If a person is not able to remove it, like paint, for example, and there's no way for him, there's no chemicals with him to remove it, and he tried to wash it and rub it and it did not get removed, that's fine. He can make wudu with it. فاتقوا الله ما استطعتم. You obey Allah to the best of your ability. So إزالة ما يمنع وصول الماء إلى البشرة. Number 10 دخول وقت على من حدثه دائم لفرضه. دخول وقت, which means the time enters for the one that his hadath is what? We talked about the wudu has to be from hadath and from khabath. Hadath is the action that breaks the wudu. So the entrance or the time of the salah enters for the one that his hadath, that he means he's breaking his wudu in a continuous way for his fard. This is the situation of the one that has salas bawl or salas rih, and that is basically the one that has continuity in what breaks the wudu. He's not able to control his urine, for example. He's not control to have control over the passing wind, for example. This is a condition, a physical condition. So someone has that condition. So urine comes out without any control. So should that person quit the salah? Of course not. He should still make wudu. But the wudu here becomes only mandatory for him when the time for the salah enters. So every salah he has to make wudu for it. So when that person that has that condition, can he make salatul asr with the wudu of salatul dhuhr? No. He has to wait for the adhan of al-asr to be called. Then he makes wudu and he goes to make salah. Anything that comes out from the moment that he's making wudu till he finishes the salah, there's no harm on him. He broke his wudu, but that's a physical condition. He has no control over it. So the ulama, they say what's mandatory upon him is that he has to make wudu before he makes the fard. So after the time of the fard starts, he makes the wudu and he's not busy with anything till he makes the salah. The normal things that he do, that's fine. For example, if he comes to the masjid, he makes wudu and he comes to the masjid. And of course, he secures himself so that he does not make his clothing contaminated with the impurities or the masjid or whatever. And then anything that comes out, it does not harm his salah. The salah is valid. So that's why it says here in the Arabic, دخول وقت على من حدثه دائم لفرضه. It's like the structure of the sentence is back and forth, just for those who want to read the Arabic. So دخول وقت. Why did he start with دخول وقت? Because that's the condition for that person, is that the time has to enter. The time of the salah has to enter. He cannot make the wudu before the time of the salah enters. على من, upon the one, حدثه دائم. This is the person. His hadath, his breaking the wudu, دائم. دائم is continuous. Does not stop. لفرضه, for his fard. So if it's a sunnah prayer or so, there's no harm. But that's for the fard. And of course, the sunnah of the fard, he can pray it, no problem. And if something again comes out or breaks the wudu, his wudu is not broken for that particular person. Because again, his hadath is da'im. So this is the person that his hadath is da'im. Clear? So this is number 10. So these are the 10 conditions. Al-Islam, Al-Aql, being sane, Al-Tamiz, the age of being able to differentiate between things, and Niyyah, and carrying the Niyyah to the end. Number 5, the end of the mujib, or what necessitates the wudu, has to stop. Number 6, al-istinja or istijmar. Some they put the 5 and 6 together, so it has to be cleaned also. Number 7, that the water has to be pure. Number 8, has to be permissible. Number 9, to remove anything that prevents the water from reaching the skin. And number 10, that special condition for the one that hadathuhu da'im, his condition is, or he breaks the wudu continuously, then he cannot make the wudu for the fard unless the time for the fard enters. Right? إزالة ما يمنع وصول الماء إلى البشرة. the word is إزالة ما يمنع. يعني there's no one title for it, but because of the wudu, the water has to be on the skin. So if there is anything that prevents it, then a person has to remove it. No. Let me see if there is something shorter than that is mentioned in some of the. So this is والله أعلم إزالة الموانع وإزالة ما ينبغي. طيب here he mentioned موجب الوضوء موجبه هو وجود الحدث. What makes the wudu wajib is وجود الحدث. The hadath is present, the hadath is there. So that means a person broke his wudu. So that means he has to make wudu for him to be able to make salah and things like this. Then after that, he talks about furud al-wudu. Furud al-wudu, the obligations of the wudu, which is the pillars of the wudu. And these are the obligations. He says, furud al-wudu is 6. So the conditions are 10 and the obligations are 6. And they are the ones that are mentioned in the ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah. He says, الأول غسل الوجه والفم والأنف منه. غسل الوجه, washing the face. والفم والأنف منه. And the mouth and the nose are from the face. And the Jumhur are the mouth and the nose are not from the face, but he says it's from the face. And this is the madhab. And plus also, according to what the verse means, or the verse says, فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ. You wash your face. How did the Prophet ﷺ wash his face? He never missed the mouth and the nose. So that means it's part of the face. So it's part of the obligations. So washing the mouth. So this is a mas'ala here, right? Because there's differences of opinions when it comes to the mouth and the nose. So the mas'ala, what makes the wajh? What makes the face that you're supposed to wash? We know that the face is from where manabit al-sha'r, where the hair usually grows, all the way to the bottom of the shin, and from one ear to the other, right? This is what they always talk about, the wajh. But what about the mouth and the nose? Is that included or not? Not the zahir, not the outside. We're talking about the madmada and istinshaq. The water inside, and you spit it out, and then the water goes to the nose and you get it out, right? And madmada wal istinshaq. Is it part of the pillar of the wudu, washing the face or not? That's the mas'ala. So he says it is. So it's mandatory. It's a pillar of the wudu to also the madmada and the istinshaq. The second one, غسل اليدين إلى المرفقين. غسل اليدين إلى المرفقين, which means washing the hands all the way to the elbows. And this is the pillar. And the yadayn starts from the tip of the fingers. This is not the first غسل اليدين that is done when a person starts making wudu. This is the one that comes after washing the face. So after washing the face, you wash your hands. Your hands and the arms all the way to the elbow. This is fard. And as mentioned before, the normal thing is that when we start wudu, we wash our hands 3 times. Right? This is not fard, right? According to the majority. But even if you wash your hands the first time 3 times, you still, after washing the face, you have to wash the hand again, meaning from the tip of the fingers all the way to the elbows. Because if someone says, I already washed it, so let me wash from the wrist to the elbows, the wudu is not valid, because this is a pillar, and the order has to be done. Has to be done in order. So after the face, and this is something many people, they don't pay attention to. So after washing the face, you wash the hands from the fingers all the way to the elbows. غسل اليدين إلى المرفقين. To المرفقين. المرفقين included. المرفقين, the 2 elbows. And it's not 2, and it's meaning to it. That means it's not included. No, it is included. So the elbows have to be covered. الثالث, the third one, this is according to the ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah in that particular order. مسح الرأس ومنه الأذنان. مسح الرأس, وامسحوا برؤوسكم, and wipe your head. Here مسح means wiping. ومنه الأذنان, and from the head, the ears. So this is another mas'ala here. Are the ears from the head? That means it's a pillar of the wudu, or it's only recommended. There's a differences of opinions here. He says it is a pillar because again the same evidence for the mouth and the nose, the same thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Amsahu bi ru'usikum," wipe your head, and the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam never skipped wiping the ears. So that means the ears from the head and the ears from the head. I mean, the ears is right there, right? So مسح الرأس ومنه الأذنان, and the أذنان, the two ears, you don't wash it, you wipe it. So it has the same ruling as wiping the head. So that's why it says ومنه الأذنان. مسح الرأس. We're talking about the pillars here. We're not talking about numbers and things like this. How many times? This is the pillars. مسح الرأس ومنه الأذنان. The fourth one, غسل الرجلين. But as a rule, right, to make it easy with the principles, anything that is in the Shara is considered to be make مسح to it, it's only one time. Anything that you're commanded to wipe, you only wipe one time. And that's it, no more than one. Al-ghasl, this is where 1, 2, 3, but al-mash is only one. The fourth pillar, غسل الرجلين. غسل الرجلين, washing الرجلين, the two foot. And al-ghasl, as we see, it's different than al-mash. Mash is wiping. And wiping, that means the water doesn't run on the organ that you're commanded to wipe. Al-ghasl, that means the water runs on it. It doesn't have to be that the water runs on every single point of it, but as long as the water runs, and then you cover the rest with your hands with rubbing, you need ghasl. That's why at-tadliq is sunnah, as we talk about at-tadliq, or rubbing the organs of wudu with your hand. This is about what's recommended. Why it's recommended? Because to cover the entire organ with water. But it shows that it's recommended because if you put your hand under the stream of water, under the faucet or whatever, and it covers everything, that's sufficient. You wash the organ. But it's better to use less water and to rub. And once just amount of water ran on your arm, for example, that's sufficient. That's washing. That's not wiping. Even if it's a small amount of water that runs, and then with your hand you rub the rest, that means you had made ghasl of al-yadayn. So ghaslu al-rijlayn, the same thing. And the rijlayn, what constitutes the foot here is the toes and the foot that you walk on, right, all the way to where the shin starts. So going above the ankles. The ankle is al-'azm al-nati', the one on pokes on the side, right? So you have to also cover that. So this is a rijlayn. So it's not to the heels. It has to go above, where once you start the shin, this is where the end of the foot, and you add more. Mashallah, this is from the sunnah. غسل الرجلين. So these are four. What's the evidence? قال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. Surah Al-Ma'idah, verse number 6, clearly states these four pillars of the wudu. Number 5, there's still 2 more, because we said there are 6 of them. So this is what's mentioned in the verse, but number 5 and 6 are also mentioned in the verse, but not directly or specifically. The 5th one is at-tartib. At-tartib is the order. You have to do them in the order where the verse said them, mentioned them, one after the other. And why is that? He says, لأن الله جل شأنه ذكره مرتبا. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned it in that specific order. وأدخل ممسوحا بين مغسولين, which is even more than that, that he أدخل ممسوحا بين مغسولين. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, أدخل means inserted or entered one ممسوح, something wiped, between 2 things that are washed. ممسوحا, مسح, right? ممسوحا, which is the head and the 2 ears. بين, between. مغسولين, between 2 washed organs. So the ayah here, as we see, إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا, that's مغسول, وجوهكم وأيديكم, this is to wash, إلى المرافق وامسحوا, wipe, here's wiping the head. وأرجلكم is غسل, is washing. And أرجلكم with a fatha, and even if it's in the recitation with a kasra, it doesn't matter. And this is consensus, of course, that whoever wipes over his foot, not the socks, not the leather socks, this is a different mas'ala. Whoever wipes over their bare foot, the salah is not valid. Rafidah, they do this. The salah is not valid to start with. Because we have, and this is one of the clear evidences that are always mentioned, not just because the Arab of Arjulakum, but also because of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And that's the barakah. For those who follow the Sunnah, their wudu is valid. For those who deny the Sunnah, for example, their wudu is not valid, their salah is not valid to start with. But so the Prophet ﷺ never wiped his foot, he would wash the foot. But the point here of the evidence that we need to really remember, why the tartib, why the making the wudu according to the, when it comes to the fard, as mentioned in the verse, because what makes it very clear that the order here is meant is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned mamsuh, which is the head between two things that are washed. Otherwise, the Arabs and even non-Arabs, if you're talking about something that you don't really care about the order of doing it, then you would say, when you go for the salah, wash your face and your arm and your foot and wipe your head. You put the wash together and the wipe together. That's what makes sense. But why would you say, wash the face, wash your arm, wipe your head, and wash your legs? Unless it's meant to be in that particular order and tartib. And of course, we have the action of the Prophet ﷺ very clear in this. So that's why a tartib is a pillar. Whoever wash the arm before the face, the wudu is not valid. Even though the outcome or the end result is the same, it doesn't matter. It's ibadah. It has to be in that particular order. Do we need to know the illah? We don't need to know the illah. Do we have to know the wisdom behind it? We don't need to know the wisdom behind it. The wisdom is to be obedient to Allah. This is how the wudu is. Number 6, al-muwalah. Al-muwalah is the continuity. لفعل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ذلك. Continuity, that means you cannot stop the wudu in the middle and go do something else and then come back and continue. You have to start over. So what constitutes al-muwalah? Al-urf is what seems for someone to look at the person making wudu. Does he look like he quit and he left, or it looks like he's just interrupted his wudu and he's continuing the wudu? So it's your also senses of things. So when the ulama try to make a dabit or to make it easier for the people, did you break the continuity of the wudu or not? They say, for example, the drying, the last udu, the last organ, if it dries in a normal condition, that means your wudu, you have to start over again. So you're making wudu, for example, and then you stopped after washing your face because you had to answer someone or something like this. But then how long? You talk to that person till your face become dry. That means you broke the continuity of the wudu. You have to start over again. But there's no dalil of this. The evidence or the how to know this is the norm. Did you stop making wudu? It's been a while, so that means you have to start the salah, the wudu again. The same thing with when you finish the salah and you had a rak'ah that you missed. You finished the salah. Somebody reminded you. If he reminds you after an hour, after half an hour, you have to repeat the salah over again. But after you finish the salah, I told you you missed rak'ah. Are you sure? I didn't. Yes, you did. Here's a video. Let's check the camera. Of course, nobody would do this. But you missed rak'ah, so you stand up and you make rak'ah. This kalam that happened is not too long, and the Prophet ﷺ did that. But if it's after a long period of time, then you have to start the salah again. So, number 5 and number 6. 5 is a tartib, number 6, al-muwalah, continuity. So these are the 6 pillars of wudu. Easy to remember the ayah, and then you add to it a tartib, order, and al-muwalah, continuity. Can we take the sunan? It's okay. Can we take the sunan? Sunan al-wudu. Sunan is the plural of sunnah, and in the subject of fiqh, it refers to recommended acts. Right? So sunan al-wudu, he says, number 1, as-siwak. And we talked about the siwak from sunan al-fitra. And sunnah means if a person does it, he gets reward. If he doesn't do it, there's no sin. and it's to be done, not to be not done, but it should be done. But a person from the makruhat, from what's disliked, is when a person leaves a sunnah of the wudu without a reason. So السواك, غسل الكفين ثلاثا, to wash the hand 3 times. Do that in the beginning. المضمضة والاستنشاق. المضمضة is the, what's مضمضة in the best word for مضمضة in English? Gargling, yes. But here rinsing one's mouth and nose. Okay, so gargling is al-madmada, which is very obvious. That means you move the water inside of your mouth. I'm not sure if the word rinsing your mouth. Rinsing means what? You just put it inside. Is it squishing or? Oh, it's not just. Okay. So rinsing is not just passing the water in your mouth. Squishing? Squishing the water. In the transition, it says rinsing one's mouth. Is that accurate? Rinsing? Okay. Okay. And the nose is al-istinshaq. Al-istinshaq, see how even the Arabic mad, meaning one time after another time. It's not just one thing. Mada. And al-istinshaq is inhaling it. Right? So al-istinshaq, that's what perfectly done when you make your wash your nose, is that you take a little bit of water inside إلى أعلى الأنف, to the top of the nose, and then you الاستنثار is with the left hand, you blow it out. And as mentioned before, if a person train himself so that you don't, someone doesn't know how to do it, he takes water inside, he's going to be as if he's going to be dying. But if he does it, you do it being careful in the beginning till you get used to it and get the sense of it. It's a very, very pleasant thing when you get the water up and then you push it out. So, but if a person is not doing this, as long as some water enters inside of the nose, this is what is sufficient. But here, as recommended, we talked about a pillar is al-anf al-udhun, so that's a pillar. Here recommended, which is the actual the water moving inside of the mouth, the water going up. This is what's recommended. Number 4, تخليل اللحية الكثيفة وأصابع اليدين والرجلين. تخليل اللحية الكثيفة, which is the تخليل is when you have your hands going inside of your beard. If it's كثيفة, if it's thick. If it's not thick, what's the ruling for the beard if it's not thick? If you can just light some hair and you don't, and you see your face, like Hamza, what do? You have to wash your face, right? You cannot just do this because you have to wash your face. If your face is shown, right? It's okay. So if it's a thick one, then you have to, or it's recommended. They're recommended only. That means if you don't do it, that's fine. Because what's sufficient is ظاهر اللحية, the outside part of the lihya. If the water runs on it, your wudu is valid. Doing this from the bottom up, this is recommended. Of course, you should do it, but if a person doesn't do it, his wudu is valid. وأصابع اليدين والرجلين, and the same thing for the hands and the toes, because that's also from Sunan al-Fitr, al-Barajim. So if the water goes in, without your hands being between your fingers or between your toes, your wudu is valid. But it's best that you go between the toes and also the fingers. Number 5, at-tayamun, from al-yamin. That means you use the right first, the right hand and the left hand, the right foot and the left foot. And again, knowing this as a recommended act, that doesn't mean that we leave it. Right? That means if by mistake someone started the left before the right, it's okay. Wudu is valid. But it's not something that a person would choose to do. And he says, وَالْغَسْلَةُ الثَّانِيَةِ وَالثَّالِثِ, the second washing and the third washing, for anything that is washed in the wudu, this is recommended. And 3 is the most perfect way, and it's not permissible beyond that. You cannot do it 4 times. So 1 time is sufficient as a pillar, 2 is good, 3 is perfect. And that's what the norm is. But without, sometimes from the Prophet ﷺ, the sunnah that he would wash one time, sometimes two times. The next one, أخذ ماء جديد للأذنين. Taking new amount of water for the ears. You know that the ears is from the head. So you wipe the head back and forth, and then you do your ears. As he mentioned here, from the sunnah, what's recommended is you take new water for the ears, for wiping the ears. You're not washing the ears, you're wiping the ears. And then الدعاء بعد الوضوء, to make the dua after the wudu, which is the shahada, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم اجعلني من التوابين واجعلني من المتطهرين. And also it sounds سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. So this is what is meant by the dua after the wudu. And from the recommended acts after the wudu is صلاة ركعتين بعده, to make 2 rak'ah after the wudu. To make 2 rak'ah after the wudu if there's no other salah. So if it's time for sunnah, you make sunnah. If it's time for fard, you make fard. If it's time of anything, nothing, then make 2 rak'ah, as the hadith of Bilal radiallahu anhu, where the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam told him, what do you do? سمعت دفا عليك بين يدي في الجنة. I saw or heard your footsteps in front of me in Jannah. So he said, I don't know anything إلا أرجع عمل. The most hopeful action that I do is that ما توضأت في أي وقت من ليل أو نهار, that I would never make wudu during the day, during the night, unless I pray after the wudu. So after any wudu, he would pray. Again, if it's sunnah, he would pray the sunnah. If it's fard, he pray fard. If it's nothing, he would pray 2 rak'ah. So how many sunnahs here? 9. 9, right? So السواك, washing the hands 3 times, المضمضة والاستنشاق, the mouth and the nose, تخليل اللحية وأصابع اليدين والرجلين, التيامن, the right first, the second and the third washing, number 7, taking new water for the ears, number 8, the dua after the wudu, and number 9, praying 2 rak'ah afterwards. After that, makruh. طيب, we'll take the makruhat of the wudu and we'll stop inshallah. Makruhat al-wudu, what's disliked? Makruhat is the plural of makruh. And what's the definition of the makruh? Whoever leaves it, he gets reward. And whoever does it, there's no sin. But it's to be left, person to leave it to the best of one's ability. Not that a person knows it's makruh, so it means it's not haram, so it's okay to do it. No, when a person has a choice, he should stay away from it unless he needs it. And al-karaha tazul bil-haja. If there's a need, there's no karaha. If something that is makruh, but you need to do it, it's not makruh for you anymore. This is a general rule for anything that is makruh. Different than the haram. If there's a need, it does not make the haram halal. Only the darura, a higher level of necessity, life and death, something like this. But the makruh, your life will be difficult if you stay away from the makruh, then it's not makruh for you in that particular case. So what's the first makruh of the wudu? التوضؤ في المكان النجس لما يخشى أن يتطهر عليه من النجاسة. To make wudu in a place that is impure, has impurities in it, out of the fear that maybe the najasa will rebounds back on the person also. So is it permissible to make wudu in a place that is impure? Yes, it's permissible. Wudu is valid, but it's makruh. Waswas comes, maybe the water comes, splashes on you. So stay away from it. Unless this is the only place, then you have to make wudu, and it's not makruh anymore. If it's otherwise, you won't make wudu, and you would say, let me make tayammum then. No, you have to make wudu. If the place is not clean, or clean is not the accurate word, najis, impurities, and we didn't talk about the impurities yet. The second makruh here is ziyada ala thalath, to add more than the 3 washing for whatever organ of the wudu. لما روي أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم توضأ 3 وقال من زاد فقد أساء وظلم. And the hadith is reported by Imam al-Nasa'i, and it's a sound hadith. The Prophet ﷺ made wudu 3 times. And he said, من زاد, whoever do more, فقد أساء وظلم. He had أساء, which is did harm, did bad. وظلم, that means he wronged himself, or transgressed the limits. So this is the apparent wordings of the hadith, it shows that it's haram. But the majority of the ulama, they say that it's makruh because if a person not sure, for example, so he would add one more. So it's something to be for a person to stay intentionally, for a person to make wudu 4 times, as the Prophet ﷺ, or 5 times, فَقَدْ أَسَاءَ وَظَلَمَ. But someone is not sure. Sometimes it's not really accurate to to see how many times, especially if you're under tap water or something from a faucet. What's 3 times? So is it passing your hand 3 times? Different than if you're making wudu from a container, it becomes easy. So never to do more than 3, but it's in the categories of the makruh. Number 3, al-israfu fil ma', excessiveness, use of water. And the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he would make wudu, he would make wudu bil mud. Well, mud, al-mud is the what you can have in 2 hands full of water. This was sufficient for the Prophet ﷺ to make wudu with. والإسراف في كل شيء منهي عنه, and he says al-israf is always forbidden. Israf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says وكلوا واشربوا ولا تسرفوا. It's haram to make israf. So al-israf fil ma'. The hadith where people usually use it's not authentic. لا تسرف في الماء وإن كنت على نهر جار. Do not make or use excessiveness of water in wudu even if you are by a running river. The hadith is not authentic, but is always the case. Even if there's a whole bunch of water and we're not scared of having not enough water, it doesn't matter. Al-israf is not good. And as Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, he said, من قلة فقه الرجل, from the less knowledge of the person, شدة ولعه بالماء, that he loves water so much. That means he's so much, when he takes ghusl, shower, he stays there for 15 minutes under the water. When he makes wudu, he uses lots of water. It's from the weakness of his fiqh and his knowledge. So to use what is necessary, and that's sufficient. And to clean oneself, of course. The last one, ترك سنة أو أكثر من سنن الوضوء, as we mentioned. To leave a sunnah of the wudu, something recommended, or more, this is disliked. Why? إذ تركها يفوته أجرا أو يفوته أجرا يجب الحرص عليه ولا ينبغي تفويته. Because if he leaves a sunnah or more, he misses ajr, a reward that he should be eager not to miss it, and that's why he should not miss it whatsoever. Is it haram? No, it's makruh for a person to choose, unless he has no means for it. Then it's okay for him. It's not makruh in this case. So these are 4 from makruhat al-wudu: making wudu in an impure place, to add more than the 3 times of washing, excessiveness use of water, and leaving a sunnah or more. And then next time, inshallah ta'ala, we'll continue with nawaqid al-umur. Stop here, inshallah. There's questions in from here. It says, first one is in Arabic. بالنسبة لأصحاب النية طوال فترة الوضوء استصحاب النية. استصحاب النية طوال فترة الوضوء هل يقطع الموالاة خلع الخفين أو الجوارب؟ لا يقطع الموالاة خلع الخفين أو الجوارب، وإنما يقطع الموالاة طول انقطاع الوضوء. To have the نية, first of all, استحاب النية قد ينقطع حتى وإن كان في قدر يسير، وقت يسير جدا. There's 2 different things we have to differentiate here. The question is, we talked about carrying the niyyah with you. You have to have the intention with you till the end of the wudu. The question is, does that breaks when you, and mention the muwala also, the continuity of the wudu, when you take your shoes off or your socks off while making wudu so that you can wash your foot, for example. Istishab al-niyyah is different than al-muwala. Istishab al-niyyah that you have the intention of wudu to the end. And as we heard that if you are in the middle of the wudu and you decided that you're quitting the wudu, which is really something that can happen, but if you decided that you're not going to make wudu anymore for a second, and then you says, no, I'll continue, no, you have to start over again because you quit the wudu. Different than you stopped making wudu because you're answering a phone or talking to someone, and then you stop there, you continue the wudu. You did not quit the wudu in your intentions. But if you quitted with your intention, say for example, somebody called you and he said you have to leave now, it's an emergency. So inside of you, you quit the wudu, you leave. But then once you took 2 steps, the phone rings again, oh, it's okay. You can continue. Can you continue the wudu? No. You have to start over again because you quit the niyyah. Different than the same time can be for someone that did not quit the wudu. The same time for someone answering the phone. The second question is there oil on the hair? Is that supposed to be removed to make wudu? Oil does not prevent the water to reach the body or the hair. Oil, normal oil. But anything else, if it puts a layer on the hair, then you have to remove it. So oil does not. Wallahu a'lam. As the ulama they say, can you make wudu while you have Vaseline on your hands or lips, or does that create a barrier? It does not also. These in the categories of oil, it does not prevent the water to reach. هل شرط الترتيب يأتي مع الموالاة? These are two conditions. الترتيب is شرط, a condition. الموالاة is شرط. ترتيب is the order. الموالاة continuity. So if you stop in the middle, right, and then you continue from where you stopped. But tartib is the order of the wudu. You cannot miss the order. طيب, with the rest of the questions, we'll do them after Salatul Isha, inshallah, so that people have time to make two rak'ah. Go ahead. Doesn't say what? غسل. No. There's a reason why it did not say إلى الكعبين in washing the foot. The ayah says it. وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. But when we're studying the غسل الرجلين, assuming that in fiqh the less numbers of words is meant, and then in understanding it, a person would understand what constitutes a رجلين.
So when it's mentioned غسل اليدين إلى المرفقين,
yes, the yadayn can be before the mirfaqayn, but al-rijlayn is al-ka'bayn min al-rijlayn, but it's still specifically mentioned in the verse. So, no. So there's still questions online here, but we'll answer them inshallah after Salatul Isha, inshallah. If you guys wait with us, whoever is online, I don't know if we can have time to finish them all. Or otherwise, if you're not, then we can have it next time, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, Muhammad wa sallam. Ring. They have to make sure that the water under the ring reaches, so they can move the ring a little bit, so the water goes in. They don't have to remove it all together, as long as the water reaches the skin.